Well, on New Jersey this week, the show opened with Joey Gorga teaching his son a very important lesson: how to boil water. Meanwhile, over at Louie's house, Teresa's trying to have a conversation with her dogs, except she can't remember which one's which. Then Jen Aydin meets up with her two brothers and her sister-in-law, and of course has to remind us that they're still living in that apartment, the same one that she arranged for them, but maybe not much longer because they're in the process of opening a new jewelry store. But this next one is going to be in Florida because the people there are just nicer and not so aggressive. Jennifer tells her family her version of what went down with Danielle and about the fact that Teresa didn't defend her. Jen tells them that no one had her back and she is not happy about it. Jen says that she rides hard for Teresa and Dolores, and she is very disappointed that she didn't get the same, and she plans on telling them. Then Danielle and her daughter go over to Rachel's for a play date. It's there that Danielle tells Rachel about all the drama that went down at the Namaste Bitches live show, including that comment she laid on Jen on her way out the door. Then Rachel tells Danielle about her pajama party plan. She wants to do a little boozing, a little bonding, and she is planning on inviting Jen Aydin, but not Teresa. Then Teresa walks into Gia's room where she's studying for the LSATs. Teresa said her girls are like her, hard workers, and if Gia wants to be a lawyer, then Gia will be a lawyer. Teresa's just grateful that she went to college and graduated, but I'm left wondering how someone can go to college for 4 years and still not understand the concept of an analogy. Teresa goes on to say that Joe didn't even graduate high school, he got his GED, and she only went to 2 years of college, and that her vocabulary is not that great. Yeah, but that's okay, because look at my kids. But really, look at your kids, Teresa. Your kids are okay in spite of you, not because of you. The real question is, who do your kids have to look at? Not you. And the problem isn't your vocabulary. The problem is the fact that you're rooted in the wrong stuff. Then Teresa brings up people that try to steal your peace. And Gia says, yeah, I see you're still going through a lot with Louie's case and his ex. Gia says, she's so obsessed with him. But she's not. And Teresa says, yeah, I've been dealing with this for 3 years, since the day that I met him. And Gia low-key says, yeah, she's crazy. But she's not. And in confessional, Teresa explains that Vanessa, Louie's ex, recently filed a restraining order because according to Vanessa, Louie had been harassing her. But Teresa doesn't believe it for a second, and she is pissed off that someone is trying to ruin his reputation. Teresa goes on to talk about how the court dates keep getting postponed and it just keeps making her sicker and sicker. The whole thing is leaving her completely stressed. Then, according to Teresa, she found out that Margaret was involved, but she wasn't. Then Teresa finally says in confessional what everyone's been wondering all along. The real reason why she hates Margaret so much is because of Margaret's involvement in this court case. And according to Teresa, she has proof of Margaret's involvement, but she doesn't. The truth is that Margaret had nothing to do with Vanessa's court case. Margaret only ever started talking to Vanessa after Louie sent his buddy Bo Dietl after the ladies, because everybody knew that Vanessa had been dealing with some of the same stuff. And this whole thing didn't end well for Teresa because in the end, it was proven that Louie was harassing his ex. I mean, I've talked about this before. It was actually proven in court that Louie and his buddy Bo Dietl did in fact send an undercover plant posing as a patient into Vanessa's psychotherapy office, all in an effort to obtain information on Vanessa. It was proven in court. So Teresa says she wants to move on from this, but she can't. Not until this is settled, and she needs the other women to understand how serious this situation is and how much Margaret has contributed to Louie's downfall. So Teresa's inviting James Leonard, Esquire, over to the house so he can explain it all to the ladies. Gia says that after James spells it all out for them in black and white, they'll all be able to see the truth. Then Joe and Melissa head on over to Margaret and Joe's house to help them cut down a dead tree. This is the first time they've seen Joe since his cancer scare. Melissa says to Joe, I know you're not feeling good because your little pichadille is hurting you. And for those of you wondering, pichadille is Italian for penis. Margaret tells Melissa that it's not his peach, it's his prostate. Then the two Joes go out to chop the tree down, and when they do, Margaret gives Melissa the lowdown on where they stand in this health crisis. Then they start talking about Jackie and her daughter's bar mitzvah. Then they move on to the upcoming pajama party. Marge tells Melissa that both Danielle and Jennifer Aydin said that they're going. And right at that moment, the two Joes fall through the door in some 4th grade attempt at a prank. Like Joey cut his arm off, but Marge could smell the ketchup a mile away. Then Dolores stops by Jen Fessler's with flowers and cannolis. They talk about the end of that Namaste Bitches night, and Dolores says that she was really worried about Teresa. They both recognize the fact that she's fragile, and Dolores goes on to tell Jen that she wants to plan a retreat. They go on to talk about Jen's relationship with Rachel. Dolores says that what bothers you in your 30s and 40s is not what bothers you in your 50s. Life's way too short, and you need to let that shit go. And hallelujah. Then Teresa meets up with Jen Aydin for lunch, and right after they exchange pleasantries, Teresa says, "I'm sorry about the other night." Jen says, "They ripped me a new one and you guys didn't say anything." Teresa said, "I'm sorry, I didn't want to get into it. I had a lot of other things to do that night." Says, "This is less about her and more about you and me. When I see you altercating with someone, I always jump in because that's who I am." Altercating? But maybe I should stop doing that. Jen says, "I know you're really stressed out about the court case and stuff, but I need a friend too. I ride or die for you, Teresa. I effing love you." And Teresa said, "I'd ride or die for you too." And Jen says, "Well, I'd sure like to feel that." Then it's time for the slumber party, and all the girls have monogram matching pink pajamas, even though Rachel made it very clear that no one's invited to spend the night. All the ladies arrive bearing booze. Before the party kicked off, Rachel and Jen Fessler slipped aside so they could clear the air and actually enjoy the night. And they did both clear the air and enjoy the night. Then it was time for the lip reader. As Jackie was waiting for her turn, Jen Aydin asked her how it was going with the book. Said that things are going good. She actually thought it was going to be a New York Times bestseller, and that it's not. And then Jen Aydin pops in a confessional and says, "Not everybody can be Teresa Giudice." Then Danielle showed up with a cake that she baked that had a bunch of wafer women on it. And the wafer woman that was supposed to be Jen Aydin was hanging off the cake. And it wasn't because Danielle hit a bump. Then the ladies all do champagne bombs, followed by a fruit by the foot contest that Jen Aydin ended up winning because, as she said, she swallowed. And she doesn't really do that anymore because Bill eats a lot of spicy foods. Then the ladies all fix themselves a plate and sit down at the most beautiful table, where Margaret poses the question, "How do you ladies know when your husband wants sex?" And the answers were hilarious. Then Rachel asked Dolores how the new business is going with Polly. Dolores says, "Great, we just got new computers, new desks." Then Margaret asks, "Have you guys had sex on those new desks?" And Dolores says, "I don't want to mix business and pleasure." And then seemingly out of nowhere, Jen Aydin says, "Milk the prostate, baby. Milk the prostate." And Jen Fessler cranes her neck and says, "Do you do that?" And Margaret, "Wait, do you do that? You milk the prostate?" And Jen says, "Yeah, milk the prostate." Fessler says, "Jennifer." And Danielle in confessional, "Did she say she milks her husband's prostate? How do you do that? Is it a tap, tap, tap? Is it up?" And Dolores says, "Leave it to sex to bring this group together." Then Jen Fessler says, "I'd like to have my prostate milked." Melissa's jaw hit the ground. Everyone's laughing. Everyone's having a good time. They all want to move forward. Everyone can have a good time together as long as Teresa's not there.